4 months ago, I came to Thailand on a one-way ticket without really that much of a plan. I had a 5-year visa. I knew I could make money online, and I knew that I would kind of figure it out. But I've been operating in this space of extreme uncertainty, not knowing particularly what I'm going to do from 1 month to the next. So many uncertain things. And I knew in myself that I had to overcome this idea of trying to control everything, trying to plan everything, and everything's been completely fine. And I just want to talk about operating in this mode of being uncertain and getting used to that. What I realized in myself is that something ambiguous would happen. I'm in a situation, something changes, I'm unsure about something, and my mind would go to the worst case scenario. Now, when you do that, it's quite harsh for yourself because you're imagining a real harsh explanation for small things that might happen. Like you're seeing things which aren't there to try and protect yourself from that bad thing happening. And it feels like you're doing something productive because it feels like you're now certain about this situation. You've noticed something that you can prepare and you can convince yourself of some crazy things. And we think that we're reacting to evidence, but we're actually reacting to the discomfort of not knowing something. So we can fabricate stories. We can make up completely elaborate stories about what other people are doing, what other people's intentions are, all kinds of things, just to feel certain. And when I thought about this, did a bit of chat GPT, I realized that I would rather have a bad answer than no answer at all because it just feels like it's more certain. And that's obviously stupid because a bad answer is a bad answer no matter what it makes you feel. And I realized that I'd strengthened this way of thinking. Something uncertain happens, it creates anxiety, and then my mind searches for an explanation that justifies how I feel. And a lot of times, it's going to look at the worst case scenario. And how many times has the worst case scenario actually happened? Not very many. Now, I think that if this is something that you feel like you do, this could be rooted in all kinds of different things in your psyche. If you've had some fucked up experience, then you know that a normal mundane situation can go to something really bad that really affects your life in a matter of seconds. And then you're constantly on edge looking for that small thing. The best way I've heard this described is like the fire alarm going off for burnt toast. So there's this mundane thing that happens, but it triggers this alarm in you that makes it seem like the house is burning down. Now, this can happen in so many different situations. Someone you're talking to stops replying, a client goes quiet, you post a video, it goes badly, something you're working on becomes uncertain, and we try to invent a story to feel more certain about what has happened. I posted this video, it didn't get any views, I must just be shit at doing this. There's no point in me doing this, I may as well stop. Okay, that feels certain. It feels certain, right? I was talking to this person, I've embarrassed myself, I said the wrong thing to that client, they're not going to buy this. That feels certain. And I was doing this yesterday, ruminating. And something I've learned that is very useful for rumination is asking yourself if thinking about this thing is producing new information. If continuing to think about something isn't producing a new conclusion or helping you find new information, you're just in this mode where ruminating about some uncertain thing feels like the safe thing to do when it's probably not the most productive thing. I found myself doing this about an interaction with another person, being unsure because they weren't giving me anything back and I wasn't sure where I stood with them. So my mind was going to all of these uncertain things and then trying to create a story. And the worst, most harshest explanation was the thing that came to mind. It all turned out to be complete rubbish. The answer to this isn't to try and force being positive about something. The thing which you're uncertain about or that you feel concerned about can be legitimate. But a lot of times your first interpretation is probably not the most accurate. 9 times out of 10, if you regulate yourself, eat, sleep, come back to this problem when you're more relaxed, you're going to perceive it in a completely different light. This mental model I use to think about this is looking at the shape of the way that I'm perceiving something. If I'm perceiving my interaction with another person in this very guarded way, you got your guard up with someone, your perception is shaped by this guarded way of looking at things. Another analogy for that is like having a bruise. When a bruise is there and it's really sore, everything that touches it just feels more sensitive and it just feels different than if there wasn't a bruise. So noticing when you're looking at things through a certain shape so that you don't take it to be evidence of something or that that is the final answer to something. Seeing the shape of the way that you're perceiving things, understanding that you might be tired, you might be hungry, you might be dysregulated, and then knowing what you need to do to get back to a state where you can actually look at this again and perceive it in a different light. Because so many times what you observed and what you thought about it can be two completely different things depending on where you're at. You can add meaning that isn't there, all because it added some comfort to making a situation feel more certain. Something I found very helpful is reminding myself that I'm capable of getting out of different situations and that I've been in worse situations with less resources and I've still been fine. Basically, you have figured it out in every situation up till this point. Why is this one the one that ruins you? Why is this the worst thing in the world? Why is this thing going to be this ultimate problem? Why are you not going to figure this one out? I've been in situations even this year where they seemed massive. It seemed like it was going to be a massive problem. And a week later, you don't even think about it anymore. A month later, it's just completely gone out of your frame of mind. Things which you thought or that you acted like it was going to be this catastrophic thing, and it just wasn't. And so trust in yourself and also seeing the shape of the way that you think about things. When I arrived in Chiang Mai, I didn't take this into account, but it was the burning season and it was really bad air quality. So you're supposed to wear a mask outside. On the air quality app, it showed as being #1 worst air quality in the world. I just traveled from England. I'd had like an 11-hour flight and then a 1-hour flight or something. I was tired, I was hot, and then I realized this, and I was just like, for fuck's sake. I didn't even want to leave the airport. I was like, I'm just going to go somewhere else. I'm going to go back to Bangkok. My mind was acting like that was the worst possible thing in the world. I felt stupid, I felt annoyed, I felt like I wanted to go somewhere else. But because I was tired, I was hungry, I was hot, I just traveled all day, you can't really trust that first thought that comes into your mind. And I spoke to my friend and he was like, but this is what the travel is like. This is what it's going to be like. You've done this before. You know that it's like this. It's going to be uncertain. It's going to be uncomfortable. It's going to be random. Things are going to pop up like this at these moments when you can deal with it the least. Get used to it. And I just thought, okay, so what can I do in this situation? Get a taxi to my hotel and sleep. Drink some water, get some food, and just shut up about this. Next day, made a plan, absolutely fine. When you don't deal with something with that frame of mind and you prolong that stress, there's so many uncertain things in your life and things that aren't going to go your way that you could be in that state 24/7. And if that shape, like that bruise, is there all the time and you perceive everything through that, that it's uncertain and it's going to ruin you, and that you aren't capable of dealing with it, and this thing's going to fuck you up, it's going to put you back to where you came from, whatever it is, you can go through your life thinking like that about everything, adding meaning to stuff that isn't there, creating stress, and then perpetuating this cycle, and then constantly interpreting things through that lens to the point that it just never ends. And I feel like I basically did that for years when I was about 20. And the reason I bring that up is because I was thinking about this yesterday. This place where I'm staying, it's got a sauna, it's got a swimming pool, and I was in the pool last night. I was looking at my heart rate in the pool, and I was kind of waiting for my heart rate to go down a bit before I went in the sauna. And I was looking around, and I thought, I am in such an unbelievable place, an unbelievable situation. Why am I worried about this small thing from today? It just doesn't matter. Look where you are. Look at what you've been able to do. And this is where it comes back to reminding yourself that you trust yourself, that you've built up the evidence to be able to trust yourself, that you know that in uncertain situations, you figure it out. This thing today isn't going to be the fucking thing that breaks you. It's just not. And that thought process made me completely overcome what I was feeling, what I felt uncertain about. Because I thought, even if that thing does go completely to shit, even if that thing does happen, it's not as bad as what's happened before. And I figured that out. So what the fuck is this going to do? Nothing. So trust in yourself that you will be able to handle whatever is actually true. You don't need to try and predict every bad outcome. You're capable. You will be able to deal with it. And also not believing the first thing that comes up into your mind and the first way that you interpret situations. Really understanding if what you're thinking is even valid and how negative it is and whether it's even realistic. Because so many times it's catastrophizing, it's because you're in a bad state and you're not remembering this thing about deeply trusting yourself. Feeling less anxious doesn't come from knowing what everything means and what is going to happen. It comes from being able to leave uncertainty unresolved without trying to create an answer or add meaning or make it feel more certain, and knowing that you will be able to deal with it when whatever happens does happen.